cynthia.rock at NRL Mortgage, and I help people achieve their real estate goals by educating them on their options. Today I wanted to talk about closing costs. What are they and who pays them? So closing costs, it's a phrase that we use that really includes a lot of different things. When you're purchasing a home with a mortgage, there are a number of items that need to be paid for at closing. So these are things like title company fees, maybe a survey, probably an appraisal, homeowner's insurance, your portion of the taxes for that year, and some mortgage fees. So it can come up to a big number. It's important to understand your options when it comes to closing costs. So there are a couple different ways they can be paid. Of course, the buyer can pay all of their own closing costs. The other way you could go is see if you could get the seller to pay some of your closing costs. So in a competitive market, or if you're looking at a home that has not been on the market very long, or there are a lot of people making offers on it, you may not be able to negotiate that the seller pays your closing costs. However, sometimes it's a home that's been on the market for a while and the seller's ready to negotiate. You could ask them to pay for all of your closing costs or some of your closing costs. And this is a great time for your realtor to jump in and really give you some good advice. There are some parts of the mortgage process that can affect your closing costs though. Depending on what type of loan you're using, that might influence how much the seller can pay. Typically, on an FHA loan, most of the time, if you negotiate it, the seller can pay all of your closing costs. If you have a conventional loan and you're putting a smaller amount of money down, the seller may be limited into how much that they can pay towards your closing costs. So definitely, once you have a property in mind, check with your realtor and your lender, of course, to really confirm and dial down that number. I also wanted to talk about a couple things that are usually paid by the seller, and it'd be good for you to understand this when you're negotiating. In the state of Texas, a title policy is always required, and that's a pretty big amount of money, and most of the time the seller pays this for the buyer. Now in recent months, as it's been a more competitive market, sometimes you might find that the seller will accept offers where they don't have to pay the title policy for the buyer. They're not required to, it's just customary, and more and more in a competitive situation, if the buyer chooses to pay their own title policy, that might be an advantage on your offer to get your seller to accept it. The other thing in Texas is the survey. The state of Texas, we always require a survey when we close. So if the seller already has a survey from when maybe they purchased the home the first time, if they provide that to the buyer, that can definitely save the buyer some money if it's acceptable to the title company. Also, if there is no survey, the seller still can offer to pay for the survey. So that is another thing that your realtor can help you negotiate with. If you have any questions about closing costs or any other mortgage-related question, please call my team or email us at the information below and we'd be more than happy to help. Thanks.